Chapter 1 The Midnight Infiltration. Pedro transformed into Chalkman and sailed to a deserted island, and Susan Mackenzie was having a meeting of the minions of her goals. As they discussed a briefcase holding something important, Chalkman uses X-ray glasses to see a USB, and using a magnet while Susan Mackenzie's distracted, grabbed the case, and he also sneaked away. And also, Susan Mackenzie didn't realize it until it was gone. And also, Susan Mackenzie was called in by one of her minions to carry out her nefarious plan. And Chalkman used his magic chalk to draw a grabbing hook with a grappling hook to use a grabbing hook, and saw that Susan Mackenzie's minions were holding a device that will brainwash anyone into zombies, much to Chalkman's horror. And as the explosion light up, his shadow was seen, and Chalkman was spotted, and a chase scene began, and Chalkman uses his wits and his magic chalk to make the minions slower, and he used the magic chalk to draw a banana peel, and used a crane to poke a oil spree, causing one of the minions to fall towards their demise. And also, Chalkman, seeing the edge, drew himself a flying suit back to his house, holding the briefcase in his backpack, and also fly towards his house to his backyard. And also, he transformed into Pedro once more, and Perfecta was asking where was he, and then Pedro exclaimed that he was out being a superhero, and also he went to bed because he knew that he would probably get enough sleep for his last day of school.
Chapter 2 The Trip. The next day, on the last day of school, Pedro was awarded Student of the Year. As he's walking home, his parents explain that he is going to Puerto Rico for a month, much to Pedro's surprise, cause he was planning to spend the summer doing stunts.
Pedro, Pierre and Perfecta packed their things and made it to Puerto Rico, where they were greeted by Grandma and Grandpa, and also they had church chicken for dinner, and Pedro decided to go to a talent show. At first it went well. We have to say I didn't go so well after the song was over and the stage began to lit up, and the talent show was nearly sabotaged to be in by accident, causing Pedro to get banned.
It was a job for Chalkman and the Chalk Squad. Before they came make a plan, the Chalk glow pulled him into his subconscious, that said to him, a leader always let his team do their own kingdom. But Pedro didn't get it and snapped back into reality and got ready for the plan. Electrolytes called his kangaroo superhero magic guy, Canetany, and they had a plan to ruin Susan's chances. Despite Perfecta being skeptical about Chalkman's plans, she went along with it anyway, and the plan would have all of the scientists and guards occupied, but Susan Mackenzie had plan B, have backups of those guys, and Perfecta and Chalkman were arguing, and also Susan Mackenzie caught them, and although the rest of the team escaped, Chalkman wasn't so lucky, and Susan Mackenzie grabbed the backpack and grabbed the USB and took away his chalk. Out the opposite was true, but through them, and because she has his chalk, and put it in the machine where it would drag all its energy, and unless he can get the chalk and get it out of there which will restore its energy, he was tied up and was over lava. And also as his life flashed before his eyes, he closes his eyes and the chalk pulled him into it, and the chocolate explains that he has to use the Infinity Chapman status, and in order to do that, he has to remember that is his mind and it is his power to do whatever his mind tells him to, not the other way around, and he can summon any type of chalk in the world which pulls him back to reality. And also, before the ropes can break so he can fall into the lava, he summons Smate Chalk, which he's able to escape, and Big Man Pedro and Water Doper arrived where Perfecta, who was planning to rescue but sold that Chalk Man, was already free, and they had to flee knowing that he has a plan to save the United States. And they had a plan, and also which involves having the rest of the Talk Squad fighting through the Mackenzie's minions, and also Chalk Man drawing battle with Susan. Before the blimp can fly, Susan Mackenzie saw that the Talk Squad were arrived, and so is every other superhero, which are kids secretly in Pedro's school, and begins to do a battle between the heroes and Susan's minions, while Chalk Man now as Infinity Chalk Man, his suit begins having zigzag patterns across his suit. The blimp began to fly and Susan Mackenzie and Shark Man began a battle, and outsmarting Susan Mackenzie, Shocked Man managed to get his chalk back, and also the energy was drained out of the machine as well as the chalk's energy begins restoring, and the blimp ended up being destroyed, and Chalk Man jumped off with a parachute that he drew and saved Susan Mackenzie from falling into her doom. Pedro and Perfecta apologized about how the plan go, and he realizes that a true leader should always let his kingdom forms other kingdoms, meaning he has to let his team do their own battles, as well as they celebrate by ringing Susan Mackenzie to jail and also having to go to church chicken as a victory dinner. And as the plane trip back home ended, Pedro found out that there was a party for him, but Pedro, being all exhausted, decided to lay down in the backyard while everyone danced. The end.